That is a media depiction, and that's not what it is or what it should be. What is going on here is there's a wasted opportunity. They've cut the corporate rate, but not as much as they should. They've got it from 35 to 20, which will make us competitive with much of the world, but we could have taken the world by storm with this if we'd have gone to 15 or 12. You got to remember corporate tax. If you think the corporations are greedy, where do they go to get the money to get the tax? They don't just eat 15% of profit, right? They get it out of us. They get it out of the customers, So when you cut a corporate tax, you cut a tax to consumers. There's this obsession with paying for it. The last hour or so, it's broken that the parliamentarian of the Senate has said that they had a feature in the bill that if economic growth did not close the deficit a certain amount out of this, then it would trigger a tax increase. And the parliamentarian says you can't pass it like that under reconciliation, where you only need 51 votes to get it across the finish line. So now they're going to have to go back, and they're caught up in these pay-fors, right? We got to pay for it. Well, what the majority leader just said on the clip is, we're trying to get money out of Washington into the hands of the taxpayers. And so, the corporate tax helps. There's, some rate adjustments, and most people will say we'll get about $3,000 or $4,000 a year tax relief out of this, with a few exceptions, because we're obsessed with paying for it, which we're not really going to do. What they're saying is it adds $1 trillion to the deficit over 10 years. Obama added $10 trillion over 8 years, so it's a pretty good bargain from that standpoint. So,
Patricia, you don't agree?
No, I don't agree. I think that the war effort in Afghanistan and Iraq added to the deficit primarily because we spent all of that money on our own. And I mean, if you look at the Harvard studies that have been done on it, it's up to $1 trillion, and this was 5 or so years ago. So it's not true that Obama actually
he was the
added,
president.
well, I think the war effort added to the deficit, not necessarily the president. So we have to decide how we want to participate.
Was down.
It was down? When was it down?
Yeah, it's down as a percentage of GDP over the last 20 years.
I wouldn't say $800 billion during the time of 2 wars was down, and right now it's around 6 or 7 that they're fighting for in the Congress.
But $600 billion, which is less than it was.
Right.
If we can get back to the tax plan specifically, though, Patricia, where do you think the balance lies here in the Republican plan? Is it primarily about the middle class, or do you think it's maybe more geared towards big corporations?
I think it's unfortunate because where it lies is not a discussion about what's good for the country or what's good for the people or how the tax plan can be definitely reformed. What they're doing here is trying to push through legislation to show that they're doing something. And I mean, I know we elect our representatives because we want them to do something in Congress, but we really don't want them to do things that are going to hurt us in the long run. And the discussion around this whole tax effort is that why, let's push something through, hurry up, and for the corporations, when the people also need to get that benefit in their own, so why not look at a reform at a more flat rate or a more, less loopholes, and that's kind of where we would talk about a more equal tax and a more equal burden on each member of society, including the corporations.